Good morning, everybody, or I guess afternoon as it may be for some of you, depending on your time zone. Good day, as we say. Welcome to the value of implementing a campus utility mapping system presented by the Patrick Geospatial Services team. We are super excited to be able to present to the CFTA community this year, so thank you everybody for your interest and for joining us today. My name is Beth Campbell, and I will be our moderator for today's webinar. Our speakers today are John Young and Mike Goggin, both experts in their respective fields of facilities and utilities GIS, and both leaders in these disciplines at Esri prior to joining Patrick. Between the two of them, I think they have somewhere in the 50 years experience in GIS and geospatial services, so it should be some good stuff. Before we get started, just a few logistical items. First, everybody is on mute and will be on mute for the webinar, so if you have any questions, please enter them in the question tab on your GoToWebinar window or on your mobile. I think we'll have some time at the end to answer at least some of them, but if not, no worries, because we will send all the Q&As out after the webinar. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and again, we will send out a link to the final recording to everyone after the fact. So thank you again. I think that's all I have, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John Young to start us off. John?
Fantastic. Thank you, Beth. All right, well, good morning, colleagues. Most of you are CFTA members. Some of you are maybe considering joining CFTA. And I'd say all of us here today are here because we either have some form of a mapping system for our utility assets or no real location-based system for managing utility assets. And you're saying, we'd like to learn more, help us determine the best path to take. And if that's the case, I would say you are in exactly the right place. All right, so a little bit about who we are. Patrick Engineering, a full services engineering and design firm focused on utility and transportation infrastructure projects. And so that's everything from that initial engineering and design through full management services throughout the life cycle, including the technologies that we use throughout life cycle, and then ultimately the construction piece. And this is true for large scale as well as down at a campus installation or plant level of detail. Today we will be focused primarily on the technologies used, in this case, of course, for a campus utility mapping system. So Patrick, we do work with a number of universities as well as government installations and industrial plant clients who all share similar needs when it comes to managing utilities, or really those assets inside the fence, and providing a safe, engaging, and productive environment to learn, to do research, or to create products. As far as our locations, Patrick's headquarters is just outside Chicago, not far from downtown Naperville, which is, of course, of Esri data set fame. We have technology services staff spread across the country with a concentration in the upper Midwest and along the East Coast. Our tech solutions team is focused on GIS and asset management solutions in these four core areas you see here, those being electric utilities, telecom and fiber, gas utilities, and then facilities or buildings in these sort of inside the fence campus environments. I won't spend too much time here because you guys can check us out at patrickgeospatial.com, but we are a complete geospatial services consulting group. And so that means we provide a complete range of services from strategic planning and consulting to implementation and integration of these solutions, as well as a lot of the collection of data that needs to populate them, and then the managed services and solution or sustainment plans that come along with the care and feeding of a dynamic system and its nurturing over time. Our staff include experts in utility and facility asset management and mapping systems. And so that means everything from the implementation of a GIS for your mapping system and its integration with asset and maintenance management solutions, through those apps and things that help you with your workflow and operations and asset management, to the powerful analytics and forecasting, and then really as well the upfront kind of activities like scanning, virtual reality capture, and then the fundamental 2D and 3D design data management and the channeling or the migration of that data into a GIS or mapping solution. Our campus solution includes those for property, utility, and facility assets. But as we know today, we will be focused on utility assets specifically. And it's also a good time to mention that we are a 20-year Esri partner focused on delivering ArcGIS-based mapping systems and solutions. All right, so let's go ahead and get straight to why we are here today. We are here because as a community of CFTA members, technology professionals, we want to deliver value to our campus physical plant facility services or facility operations teams, right? So at a high level, we want to deliver faster response times when things break or mitigate risk before things break. And then there are the associated, the associated reduction of costs with mitigating and preventing things from breaking. So what I want to do is actually step through a number of benefits that we've noticed over the years of client engagement and kind of present them in a number of different rows here so you guys have these sort of to take home with you as well. And of course, there'll be the recording as well. But this is all about those benefits from standing up an operational, fully operational utility mapping system. And in this first column, the most important one probably out of these three is establishing a really solid knowledge base, right? So you want that living, breathing, dynamic system that's going to include all your location data for your utility assets, that provides a set of applications and tools that allow each of your stakeholders to collaborate and share and really benefit from that dynamic system that's that grows and cares and feeds and provides that information every day. If I step over to this other column, there are a number of helpful ones here. Certainly reducing unplanned dig-ins and potholing events associated with that many of you probably experience and drive up that cost and risk are important. But really, I'd say the middle one here is where the rubber hits the road in terms of responding more quickly to incidents, service requests, and work orders. And then if we look at one final column of benefits here, I'll just focus on the top one, and that's all about the power of geospatial analysis and how there are some really fantastic tools out there for managing outage events and help you do things like quickly locating shut-off valves and switches. And that's going to be a nice emphasis of the demonstrations my colleague Mike's going to show here in just a few. All right, so again, we're here because things break, right? So your physical plant, facility staff, folks, as far as just your folks on campus with various service requests, I mean, that you encounter challenges every day. And a campus utility mapping system will help solve these challenges and improve business processes across each of these core areas. So from planning to engineering to construction and operations. Now, before we jump into those demonstrations, I do want to focus on perhaps what is the most fundamental value item, and that's really reducing risk exposure due to unorganized, disparate data management, right? And so when your data are in these difficult to access locations, or it takes a lot of time to access those data, it can present a pretty serious problem when it comes to the speed at which you can respond to these types of events that I just described. And so honestly, GIS is probably the best technology out there in terms of picking the right technology and processes to actually organize and integrate and provide a dynamic current system that synthesizes, pulls those data together into a common location-based system. And so you can see here all the way on the right, there are a lot of things that GIS provides for a campus or a university when it comes to organizing this data. Of course, we're going to be emphasizing the importance of doing that for utilities. And then one last statement before we get into the what we do is the value of the investment. And so there are a number of folks that are maybe on the line here that are wanting to characterize the value of the investment. So here are a number of, this is a real world client pilot study, the results of one, and several improved business processes. And so if we just look at that first row and the cost avoidance associated with utility dig-ins and the like, if it's just half of those, that's a significant savings. And then we know that we're consistently receiving CAD files and different documents from our various contractors and engineering firms and the like. And if we can quickly pull those into our GIS, it helps us evaluate, say, for instance, when I'm having to put a building in the new parking lot, which utilities and things are going to need to be moved or reoriented and things like this. And even if we just save on half the projects there, we can recognize the substantial savings in time and materials. And then you may or may not do environmental permitting, but there are reductions that can be recognized there. And then on the last one, it gets down to risk management. And if you can provide a dynamic, dynamic system that's constantly being fed with the freshest data, location-based data, and you can show your insurance provider a reduction in incidents or faster response times that have resulted from those, you stand to achieve potentially a significant drop in your insurance rates. All in all, though, when you look at cost avoidance, we're talking about a pretty substantial savings in just year one that supports not only your GIS, but its ongoing maintenance year after year and the staff associated as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about specifically why we're here, and then there's the what are we doing about it. So let's roll through this, and then we will jump straight into our demonstrations. All right, so I mentioned a number of benefits and value areas, and so whether it's the utility dig-ins, whether it's outage, managing outage or unexpected events, or really just the fundamental knowledge base and data management, there are a lot of benefits of having this system. But what we do about it then, in addition to providing this value, or the how we provide the value, what we're doing about it is we provide fit-for-purpose mapping applications, tools, and services. And so being an Esri partner, we do this all with the ArcGIS platform. And so you can see we utilize both those tools for managing the data, sort of on the lower left, and then a number of configurable apps that we stand up that support a lot of these business processes on the lower right. And so those, whether these be locators or incident response tools or dashboards and the like, these are the types of things that we provide, and our demonstrations will go through this in just a moment. The other thing we'll do is we will incorporate the latest utility network management and analysis tools, which include a number of options for things like isolations and tracing, containment, and 3D visualization. We're really excited to show some of those things. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it here. There are going to be 3 different demonstrations that we're going to provide for you all. Mike's going to walk through each one of these. Along with the demonstrations, you'll see at the bottom here the stakeholders that receive the benefit. Although I would say, as you see the stakeholders across the bottom, really they may cross-cut each of the different themes or demonstration themes that we're walking through. The first theme is really all about how you access these helpful applications from a common hub, if you will, for those. And in particular, a utility management viewer that includes all your utilities, and then a breakout of individual utility viewers. And the real purpose here is all about finding an asset, locating it, and getting pretty simple type, status, and condition information. The next theme will be all about analysis, utilizing utility network analysis, and we're going to do 3 different scenarios. There'll be a leak scenario, an outage scenario, and a contamination scenario. And then finally, we really bring it full circle in terms of workflow with asset management and work enablement. So it's all about doing inspections in the field and then bringing the results of those inspections dynamically back to the back office for viewing in things like operations dashboards and some of those utility viewers that I mentioned in the first theme. All right. So I think I'm done, and it's time for me to turn things over to Beth for a quick poll.
All right, the moment everybody's been waiting for, I know, the quick poll. I have just launched number 1 of 2 quick polls for this webinar. Do you currently have a campus utility mapping system? So hopefully you are seeing the big blue window on your screen. For those where this is applicable, please give us an answer. We will be pretty quick on this. We'll give it a few more seconds because this is important. And looks like we've got a few more coming in. And we'll give it a few more seconds. All righty, and close. All right, let's see what we have here. Wow, a lot of you already have campus utility mapping systems, so that's great. Maybe looking to optimize, but a significant portion do not. And no, I don't know, so that's good news. Well, thanks everybody for this quick poll. Now I think we're going to turn it over to Mike for his live demonstration.
Thanks, Beth. Appreciate that. Thanks, John, for the lead in there. So as John mentioned, we're going to go through 3 themes across several demonstrations. And again, those themes are going to be around visualization and assessment of your campus utilities. We're then going to look at a more of an analytical. So how can you leverage, an ArcGIS configured utility network environment to really kind of leverage things like the traces that John was mentioning. And then lastly, we're going to come full cycle with an asset management, right? So managing and maintaining the condition health. John also mentioned a couple more things there, and that's we're going to utilize, this kind of fit for use tools, right? So these different ArcGIS apps to achieve all of the demos. We are an Esri business partner, and everything you're going to see today is really based on the ArcGIS platform, and it is all configurable, and nothing is customized in this instance. And then I think the most important thing, again, where John mentioned, is that this is all against a single source of the truth. So all the data and everything we're going to be looking at is pointing to the same data source, right? The same database, if you will, from a technical perspective. So we're going to move through viewers and mobility and dashboards, and we're all going to be leveraging the same data. So let's kind of dig in here a little bit. So what you're looking at right in front of you right now is our fictitious utility campus network viewer, right? So this technology is Portal for ArcGIS, another Esri product. And as you can see, we have across the banner here, we have a lot of what we call quick links. So we've segregated out the data here for simplicity, and because of the different disciplines will be leveraged and used by different folks. So for example, we have a view of the electric distribution data for the campus, a view for the gas, a view for the sewer, a view for stormwater and water distribution. But then we also have a map view of the campus utilities that are all in one map view itself, and that's going to provide value for when you are looking at that campus planning, or when you're looking at look before you dig scenarios, which is the one that we will go through today. So let's go and dig in here a little bit and kind of take a look at what these viewers look like. So we're going to dig into the gas quick link here, and I have that map already staged up here. So what we're looking at is a map of the campus, and it has all of the gas distribution facilities and assets that are supporting the campus itself. We're going to go through just some of these tools, and these are themed across all the different utility discipline maps for just ease of use. So over here we've got a legend, which standard map legends maps up what's on the map to what you can look up to kind of figure out what the different assets are. We also have a layer list that operates very similarly to most layer lists. So for example, if I wanted to turn off gas devices, pay attention to the map. They disappear. It just gives me a different view to look at if I'm not interested in gas devices. So I can go turn those back on, and then they reappear on the map. So here's some additional tools here that we've kind of put up. So one's a base map selector. So these base maps are all standard out of the box from Esri. We'll just do a quick switch here, and you can kind of see the imagery. Campus kind of comes to life here. You can see the football stadium and the field house and some of the school or campus buildings, etc. We'll turn that back. It's not really good for this view here. You also have a measure tool here, and then a print tool. So we'll just quickly look at the measure tool. So for that, I'm actually going to dig down a little deeper here. Using standard map navigation, what I just did there is use the control and just drew a box to where I wanted to zoom into. You also have, simplistic mouse wheel, and you have some navigation capabilities up here as well. So the measure tool has a couple of options. You can measure areas, you can measure in distances. So we're going to measure a distance here. You do have the options to kind of change your what you want to measure in, and then just simply interact with the map. So I'm going to lay a mouse click down here. I'm going to lay a double mouse click down here. It's going to give me that measurement of 209 feet from that 90 degree over to that T. Now I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the print tool. Printing maps and paper maps and taking them into the field or across to a colleague's office or something for collaboration is really kind of what I'll call a legacy workflow, right? So what I'm going to show you is, how you can achieve that collaboration using some of the mobility tools. For example, the collaboration tool we're looking at right now could be in your organization. Your colleagues could be looking at the same view, the same information, the same data. We'll also take a look at that from a mobility perspective. So this data is all interactive, it's all live. So John mentioned understanding what you have in the field and how you can access it. And again, this is the visualization portion of your utility campus network. So for example, here I just clicked on this gas meter, and you can start to see that this pop-up, which is configurable, can hold and house whatever information you want it to hold, as well as configure what a user can see, right? So there's probably a lot of fields in here that they shouldn't see or didn't want to see, but we have them enabled here. There's also this concept of attachments. So attachments can really be anything. They can be they can be a diagram, they can be an instruction set workflow for how to install or configure or operate something, a PDF manual, a safety book. But in this case, we have just a picture of that meter that was taken that's attached to that building or that field house. So it just gives you that view right from the office that you can look at and see what that looks like out in real space. So the other kind of usability that I'll share with you is this searching for things. So you can get an email request, you can get in a recall request, something where you have to find something within your campus utilities. In this case, I'm going to look for a controllable device. So you see I have an option here to search a gas device. So I'm going to select that, and I'm just going to start typing. So I'm looking for a controllable valve. You can see it has type forward capabilities here. So I can just kind of keep typing if I know the exact, asset ID of this, or if I see it in the list, I can just find it. Once I select it, it zooms me up to where that asset is located. It brings up its attribution, and then I can go through and kind of check out and see what's happening. Okay, so take note of this area. We will be doing some analytics on this area in the future here. So that's the gas network viewer, just to show you how the different viewers look and feel. We're going to head over to the electric distribution network, and again, this can be clicked on or selected right here from the quick link bar, but I already had that map open. So you can see all of the circuitry that is feeding the station or feeding the campus at this point, with the the substation being over here. And again, the map is fully interactive. Again, I'm going to zoom into a portion of the campus that we're going to be looking at here in a little bit. That we'll run some analytics against to kind of take a look at an outage scenario. So as the map refreshes, you can see we've got some three-phase transformers. This circuit is NCC-04 three-phase, etc. Okay. The last portal map in this portion of the Visualize and Assess theme is going to be the campus viewer itself, right? So this is where we bring together all of the utilities, campus utilities, in one view. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is, my goodness, it's extremely congested. Well, this is what you would expect, right? I mean, this is the view you're looking for to see everything that is within the campus itself. So we'll zoom in here a little bit to get some more clarity. We're going to zoom in and kind of switch a mode here, right? We're going to switch to this, kind of taking a look at some of these tools to really a use case. So the use case here is we have some sort of campus, planning or reconfiguration that's going to be happening in this area of the campus. So, in your role, you could utilize this view and get in and see what all the utilities are. In this case, I'll just run through them, and this dashed line is your electric. This orange line here with fittings and stuff is your gas. This is your sewer network here, and this blue line is your water, and you also have a hydrant service that I just selected. Again, just to kind of show you that all the data is live, it's being managed in this same kind of user interface, user interaction that you would expect, okay? So this is an office view of this data, right, of your campus utility data right now. But now let's go into a different role and say you wanted to head out into the field and you wanted that same view. Okay, so I just dragged over a kind of an image, not an image, but a projection of my iPad. So I actually have my iPad sitting right next to me here, and I'm viewing that same campus viewer map. So they look, you can see that they look very similar. The base map is the same. You can see all the utilities that are in the area. And now I'm just going to start interacting with this iPad similar to the way you would interact with any other kind of app that's on your smart device. I pinched in here or pinched out to zoom in. I would pinch in to zoom out. And then I still have the capability to interact with the data because it is still the data. So the data is the same data, and so I'm going to have access to this information, the attribute information, right from the field as well. So I'm out in the field, I'm standing right in this intersection here, and I can start to look around and start to get myself acclimated with my digital twin, right, my digital information in my GIS, as well as what is actually in the field. You can see that I've got this pop-up here that is showing, you know, the exact same information that I selected when I was in the back office. Okay, so this is a viewer of the data. The app that we're looking at right now is Explorer, right? So it does have a couple of capabilities here that I'll just kind of highlight. It has this ability to just kind of take some notes, right? So let's say, for example, you're in the field and you say, okay, well, you know, that fire hydrant is actually probably right there, and looking pretty clearly, this, right, manhole or fitting or whatever is most likely right there. Okay, so just again interacting with the map, using my finger to assist with you know, marking up the map. I think the other thing of importance to say here for collaboration purposes is you can actually share this to the back office. You know, again, just leveraging the tools. Now I won't go into that workflow, but you can pass it back in as your own notes. You can also pass it back in and share it to a group so that other folks within the organization can kind of go out and see exactly what notes that you took while you were out in the field. Okay, so we're going to switch roles here right now. So that's the assess and visualize portion. And now we're going to switch over to the analyze. Right now, the big significant difference between this switch here is that before we were just looking and able to pull up, you know, information about your network, but at this point we're actually going to start leveraging the way ArcGIS manages your network to really kind of have it work for you additionally through this analytics or analysis. So we have several traces set up. The first one we're going to do is a gas isolation. So the workflow is pretty simplistic. Let me add this before I get into it, is that the app that we're using right now is ArcGIS Pro. So this would be, you know, a back office app that you would use. This is not field, I mean, it can be field enabled, but in this case it's not. So this green dot is representing the actual leak itself. Okay, so you've got blowing gas in the field, and that's exactly where you've been able to at least pinpoint where it's at. So the task is now to isolate everything so you can do the repair. So we have this, we've set where the location is, and we're just going to pull a couple of pieces of information out of there. And one of those pieces is going to be the meter, right? The meters that are impacted by the isolation. And the other one is going to be the actual valves that we are going to exercise. Now I can push this out to an Excel file if I wanted to, and I'll show you what a result is, but for this, we're just going to go ahead and run the analytics. So visiting what a gas leak is. So the gas leak is it's a staged process that you have to go through. So you have blowing gas, and the most important thing is to figure out how you can isolate, get the gas to stop blowing, right? Get the safety of the environment under control. Once, and that's what this tool is doing, it's going out, it's locating and figuring out what valves to exercise and what meters are actually impacted. Once you can isolate the outage itself, then you can turn the gas off, you can make the repair to the gas line, you can then go in and do your pressure testing to make sure that your repair is holding. Then you can gas the system again And then you have some extra steps there, right? So all these meters that you shut down, you have to go back and you need to open them up. And then in some cases, you're going to need to go into the building, into the frat houses or wherever to light pilot lights again, right? So if your furnaces, your hot water heater, stoves, whatever the case may be, those all need to be done. So it has to be done in its particular order for safety reasons. And you can see here that the analysis came back and said, okay, well, here's your 4 meters that are impacted in the serial numbers. And then here's your valves that are impacted that you're going to need to exercise to truly isolate the outage itself. Okay, and just to give you a quick glimpse as to what an output in Excel would look like, we can open up the Excel file and we can take a look at it. Of course, if Excel decides it wants to cooperate. Okay, well, we'll just move beyond that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of cleanup here before we move over to the next trace. So I'm going to, oh, there we go. Excel, Microsoft decided to work. Okay, so here is the output. You've got 2 tabs. You've got a meter tab and you've got a controllable valve tab here. It's the same information that was in that pop-up. We are going to go over and do the, move over to the electric distribution and the outage scenario here. Okay, so I zoomed into this area in our portal environment. So when we're just looking at the visualization and looking at the attribution of your network, and the use case we have right here is that this transformer right here is suffering an outage of some kind, momentary, a full outage, whatever the case may be. So that's our starting point of our analysis. So we're going to put a point down there, and then we're going to go to our tools, and we're going to do a protective device trace. Okay, so this is simply leveraging the fact that Esri understands what a circuit is, understands what upstream and direction is, and it's going to say, okay, from this transformer, my protective or controllable device is right here. Okay, so it has picked up the fact that this switchgear is where that transformer is going back to. So let's just utilize a tool here real quick that is part of the new Esri Utility Network Management extension. It's called containment. So we're going to just enter into some containment here, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up a very detailed view of that switchgear itself. So you can see that it has the different lines coming in, and it has the bus bars and the locations where each line is connected. You can see that it's got the elbow protective devices here, and then it has the switches itself. Let's rerun that trace again to see, now that we're looking inside of the switchgear, where that line is coming in from. Okay, so it's coming in here, and it's hitting that switch right there. Okay, so if I wanted to, I can go in and get the information about that switch, right? Again, switching from the analytical mode of network management into the visualization mode here, I can say, oh, okay, well, it looks like that switch is, here's the asset ID or the switch number that would most likely be stenciled there. And it is part of this circuits, the NC -04. So this gets me on my way of being able to truly diagnose what the issues are at that building, wherever it may be. Now, this is a simplistic trace, I understand that, but you can see that the understanding or the fact that Esri understands networks, those traces can be a lot more complicated and cover a lot more. You can go more or upstream, or you can go downstream, etc. So let's just do some cleanup here, and let's move over to our final quick analytical check here. So this is the sewer system. This is the sewer network assets and model. And the scenario is we have some contamination that we found in this building right here. So that's going to be the starting point of our analytics, right? So we're just going to pick this lateral here, and we're going to utilize or leverage another tool called upstream sewer trace. So we want to know what's upstream. Specifically, we want to know the manholes as well as the containers or the outflows or inflows that are coming in that could potentially drift down into that building site. Okay, so from a visualization perspective, we can see that the manholes are selected. But if we go, in this case, we configure this trace to actually give us some output. So the cleanout table was one of the things that we wanted that trace to do, and you can see that it gathered all of the cleanouts that are upstream of that building in that lateral. Additionally, it captured all of the manholes that were part of that upstream trace as well. So you can see here, we've got all of the cleanouts, we have all of the manholes. And again, this output from this trace, as well as the trace for the gas valve isolation, we chose to move it to an Excel file, but actually we are working with customers that would move that data into maybe a service, right? Something that can be consumed by one of the ArcGIS platform apps that we've looked at, Explorer or Collector, Survey 123 that we're going to be looking at here shortly, or back in the portal environment so more people have access to that information and data. Okay, so that does it for the analytical pieces. Again, as I exit this, we looked at your assets, we've looked at the campus utilities, we got the condition, we got the asset information, we saw a little bit about the navigation, etc. Then we leveraged the power of the ability to manage a true network within the Esri ArcGIS environment for analytical purposes, adding more value, right? Extending the way you manage your utility campus assets additionally, okay? The last part we're going to look at is the asset management. So again, this is keeping your assets running well, right? So maybe you can get into some predictive or preventative type of maintenance, down the road. So what you have in front of you here is a dashboard. Specifically, it's operations dashboard, again, part of the ArcGIS suite. What this is for is to kind of show me as the manager of the inspections for valves within the campus environment, it gives me what's in front of me. Okay, I'll just go through this a little bit. The map is self-explanatory, but I will point this out. You're not seeing the gas network here very specifically because I want to build focused apps for the people that go into the field that are focused just on what they want to do. Think of email versus texting versus calendar apps within your mobile devices, right? Keep it simple. Up here we have all the valves that are to be inspected within 30 days. This is what's ahead of you, right? The insight, what's ahead of you. Here's a set of overdue inspections, right? These are behind you. These are the ones that are critical mass for you because you've missed out on your maintenance cycles there. Then you have a little bit of widgets down here that, here are some heads up. Your inspections due this week, you got 9. Due this month, you've got 10, and you don't have any completed inspections this week. Okay, so this is kind of an awareness and a planning tool to help you actually maintain and manage your system. So we're going to jump back over to my iPad here because I want to show you the mobile version of Collector here. So here's another view, same view we were looking at before, and my interest is in this valve right here. So I can pull that up like you've seen in the Explorer app. What I'm using now is Collector. So in the upper left-hand corner, you can see I have last inspected date, and then I have a link to inspections. Again, it's catching up with where I was going. There we go. So when I want to actually inspect that valve, I can just hit that link there, inspection. It's going to bring up another app for me called Survey 123. And again, you can see you're going to see that this is a real easy, quick tool to leverage and use, very pointed for the inspection. It could be a paper form that you're using today, and just migrate it over to go to digital. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit that back, okay? And then I'm going to go back to my Collector app because I want to do one more thing, right? So I actually inspected that valve today. So I want to change that inspected date from 2018 into today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that to today's date. I'm going to push those changes back. And again, we're pushing these changes back into the single source of the truth data, right? That's the important part here is we're leveraging all the same data to go ahead and manage, visualize, analyze, and then also inspect or manage the data that you have there. Okay, so if we go into an app here for inspection viewer, right, and I head back in, that's the valve I inspected there, and I look at it, and you can see that today's date is actually in the inspected date, so that change took. But I do want to change the next inspection here, so I do have that ability to edit. So I can change that inspection, next inspection, and we're just going to simplistically put it, you know, a year out. So we'll go and put it a year out, set that update there. And again, this is just a way to view it. If I wanted to get in here and I wanted to actually see the inspection that I just did, you can hear there's related information. And oh, okay, look, I've actually got 3 inspections that are on that year over year, and you know, I can look at, okay, there's a better view of that. So I've got 17, 18, and 19, and if I wanted to see the results of that survey, I can pop that open, and okay, here we go, greased, yes, okay, there's today's date, okay, we're good to go. So that is my visualization. But if I go back to this dashboard and I refresh the dashboard, you're going to see some things change on that dashboard. Again, just leveraging the information that is being updated within, you know, the portal, whether it's one of these mobility apps, you know, to manage the single source of the data. So now we're down to 8 inspections this week, down to 9 this month, and you can see that we have 1 that we've completed. Also, I want you to take note that one of the overdue inspections disappeared, so that was a valve I needed to do first. So I went ahead and attacked that and did that first. Okay, so that really wraps up, you know, the kind of the demo. I certainly apologize for the technology to put my iPad onto the screen. But again, finally, we followed 3 themes there. You know, visualize and assess, analyze your data, data management overall, so asset management. We used and looked at fit-for-use tools there from Esri's ArcGIS platform. And then again, the most important thing you take away from it is all the same data, single source of the truth. Thanks for your time. I'm going to hand it over to Beth now, and she's going to do another poll.
All right, thanks, Mike. So we're launching the second of our 2 polls based on the demo you just saw. How valuable do you think a campus utility mapping system is or would be? And because you have, many of you already have one, you know, just add, you know, some of the functionality that you've seen today if you find that valuable. Just a reminder while we're answering these that if you have any questions, please enter them into the question tab in your GoToWebinar. We'll give it a few more seconds here, and we'll make this a real quick one. And 4, 3, 2, 1, ready, go. And we'll wrap it up. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, highly valuable, 91%. That's awesome. We definitely agree with that. All right, thank you. So thanks everybody for your responses. Now we're going to go back to John, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how we set up the system that Mike just demonstrated. So John?
Thank you, Beth. All right, so how do we go about doing this? And thank you, Mike. Those demonstrations were fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to be covering this pretty quickly in the interest of time to allow for your questions, but certainly be sure to jot those down. And really what we're doing here is just jumping through what we would call a pretty typical set of steps, but they're certainly important to go through, and then we'll dive into a little more detail. All right, so the first thing we like to do is get the right folks to the table, right? All the critical stakeholders. This is going to include your physical, your facility and physical plant executives, and those folks that have those recognized challenges or needs. Some of those may be acute and they've just happened, or ones that have sort of been persisting over time. And get all those folks in the right room. This definitely includes your CAD managers and your GIS and IT staff as well. And then the next thing we want to do is really the most important, and that is laying the right foundation. So it's not just getting your ArcGIS technology implemented, but it's all about that fundamental data model and the data management that's going to take place in order to get your data into the system. Key here is being able to spatially adjust and orient your CAD data that's going to usually provide that foundation. In some cases, it may be your BIM information that's a little bit a newer type of data that's provided to folks for their location-based information on their assets, but to really just streamline that process. So here, your CAD and your design file management folks, your GIS folks, and related SMEs are critically important to pull into this step. So once we've developed that foundation, we've got a great place and a knowledge base for how we're going to manage data, we then move into actually configuring that mapping portal. So the look and the feel, the users that are going to be taking part in it, the apps that need to get built, the analytical tools that will be created, and then the actual kind of stitching together of those, the configuration actually right out of the box is what we focus on. And honestly, then focusing on quick wins, like getting tools into folks' hands so they can begin achieving success as quickly as possible. The next thing we do, though, is actually put it in the hands of folks that are going to be part of our testing community to kick the tires, to spend some time getting used to those apps, evaluating them. We take down all that information, and then we move into a little bit of refinement, and then set folks on their way utilizing these great tools. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is we're at a current state, but we know that when we're at that current state of the GIS in your utility mapping system, there are going to be gaps that need to be filled. Okay, so in other words, there are going to be then a variety of data collection options that we want to talk about and provide in order to fill those gaps. There'll also be some additional capabilities that you're going to want to add. We certainly account for that in this last step. And then there's really just moving into that caring and nurturing, that feeding of both the apps, the system, and the staff that are involved. And that's all part of a sustainment plan that we like to roll into. All right, so that's the high level on the steps, but we also wanted to go a step further and provide you with what is a common workflow that encompasses those steps and ultimately gets to a place where you're taking advantage of those really powerful analytical tools in your apps. And so if you look at this top row, this is all about that investment in the data management and pulling that CAD information, et cetera, into that GIS, getting the necessary cleanup completed, and then getting to a place where you're really ready to sort of send the folks out into the field, right? So this could involve survey. This could include folks that have apps like Mike showed, a collector survey 123 style app, and then populating and really again, filling the gaps and getting that data to a place where we've got a GIS data model that reflects your assets and can be utilized to go ahead and build that behavior, the powerful behavior that Mike talked about, that then really instantiates, fancy word, the network. Once the network is in place, you can then do things like build trace tools, the isolations, the containment that Mike showed, and then ultimately consume those into really helpful apps. And so a variety of different ArcGIS apps and web apps and things that come with the ArcGIS platform. Now, we do want to take a moment and say that when you're filling these gaps, there is a focus on field data collection, and we know that a number of you like to, and it's a really good idea to take advantage of your students and interns to fill those gaps. But oftentimes, your gaps are actually involving underground utilities. And so when it comes to doing underground utility locates, or a lot of you may have state mandates that require licensed surveyors. At Patrick, we have those kind of teams, and so our Geospatial Services division and folks work directly with our survey and field mapping teams, as well as a set of regional survey partners. And we work together following a common format for how we do above and below ground data collection, as well as outdoor and indoor. We do all these methods so that we're channeling that information into a common model that is location-based, that we then reconcile and pull into the final ArcGIS campus utility mapping system. The other thing that usually happens during this phase 2 is we integrate with other business systems. So this is where the integration with your asset and maintenance management systems typically occurs as well. All right, so we're at a point now where we want to sort of bring this full circle. That's a little bit, about how we did things. We're certainly going to have some time, I think, for your questions here. I just want to underscore that, there's a lot of, hopefully we've conveyed the value of using a campus utility mapping system. Again, a lot of you are probably in some stage or form of implementation of one of these, but there's a lot more that you can likely do, and we would certainly love to help you. With that, I am going to toggle to a Learn More slide, where you can go to patrickgeospatial.com or to CFTA.org. We highly encourage folks that may be looking at CFTA for the first time to join. It's a wonderful community. We're a gold partner now. We're excited about that. And we're definitely looking forward to the main conference coming up here in the latter part of the summer. But with that, I want to go ahead and turn things over. Go ahead. We have to do a little pivot here. Yes, to Q&As. So Beth, with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, guys. That was great. So we do have a little bit of time left. I don't see any questions. There's still a few minutes if anybody has any last-minute burning items. I did jot down a few things as the admittedly GIS impaired person, but a project manager who has worked on many GIS projects. Some things come up over and over again in these discussions. So I thought, hey, let's see if we can ask them here. So the big one is data. So what if the data is horrible? What if our data is horrible, Mike and John? Is that something that we should be working on before? Is it something that can be done simultaneously to look at improving that data? Did we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, not a problem. It's actually a really good question, and it's something we actually hear a lot. The proverbial, my data is horrible, so there's no way that what I saw today, I can leverage or take advantage of. I think the answer is you have to start sometime. So you have to start, you have to draw that line in the sand and move forward. And you can leverage the existence of your data in whatever form it's in. Once you get it into your geospatial platform, your campus utility platform, you can leverage these robust tools to help you manage and construct and make more accurate, the data that you do have. That's going to be a lot more difficult in potentially the environment you have, especially if it's like in CAD, right? Once you get into GIS, you have a lot more tools, and you have a lot more ability to kind of move it forward.
Yeah, and I'd underscore there too that as you begin that cleanup process, and it is going to be a process, just remember this: you're minimizing risk exposure with every step you take, because you're getting towards that living, breathing, dynamic system that's going to be a reflection of really what's going out in the field, and it's going to provide really sound information when it comes to, say, where should I not dig, when you ask that question in the future.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, meaning you don't know what you want to capture until you start to really sit down and put your arms around what you want your campus utility infrastructure to look like.
Awesome. All right, well, we do have a few questions coming in, so we'll start at the top, and we'll get to as many as we can. Again, we will send out all of the Q&A afterwards, so no worries if we don't get to them. Okay, the first one is from Suresh. I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry, Suresh. If a building has multiple floors, is it possible to visualize all of the associated assets, for example, electrical, with the standard tools you demonstrated, or do they require specialized additional tools?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a challenge that's out there that, frankly, we're uniquely equipped to handle because of our team. So, we have a lot of years of experience with not only utilities, but also facility and indoor mapping, and really that extension of GIS to go indoors. And we've done a lot in the world of kind of bridging that piece to where we come from the outside to the inside and then need to start scaling in 3D. And so I would say that what we do is we adapt the data models so that you can take advantage of that network behavior as you travel, whether you're traveling floors up and down inside or whether you're going subterranean outside. And that's one thing. And so then the set of tools that are provided certainly need a little adaptation, but there's nothing stopping you from doing this, and it's something that we definitely think about. Like, Mike, you got any thoughts on that?
I'd say, the Esri's new utility network management extension, provides that capabilities for 3D, right? Networks in 3D. Its ability to link non-coincident facilities together to make them conductive and traceable is also a big, huge improvement in that stack as well. So there is an interim step you could take, right? And you could put the building and the floor and the room numbers as attributes, on some of the equipment as an interim step until you move into an indoor scenario. right? So that's something we have done for a customer before, and to set up the downstream of going into an indoor GIS facility.
Awesome. Next question, how important are the z-values in networks?
That's it. The answer is it depends, right? So again, you can visualize your networks in 3D, both subterranean, like John pointed out, and aerial, right? Things above ground. And you can, venture into things like augmented reality is a big thing right now, but your data has to be correct in order to be able to truly visualize it in an augmented reality scenario. So z-values are going to be important on an individual basis if that's how you want to view your network. That is where it is heading. That is what I'll end with there. That's where it's going. And there's a trek and a path to get there. And that's what I think John is alluding to, is that we can start you on that trek with that vision of getting you into a 3D environment.
All right, next question. For the demo, did the data start with the new utility network model from Esri, or was it converted? How was that process?
We utilized and leveraged, there's two answers. One is there was some data that we did leverage from the Esri sample data set in Naperville. That was already in the utility network data model. The gas and the electric that we added to that model, to that environment, we just edited right in place. So we didn't convert it from anything, we built it from new. So you leverage the tools to construct the network from source to sink.
And the last question I have here is, one of the later slides mentions ArcGIS Online soon. Can you elaborate on what this means and how it's currently not part of the system design?
Right, so I think what they're alluding to is on our common workflow for how we go from collection all the way to where we've built our network and set up the trace tools, that those trace tools that are being used in ArcGIS Pro that can be pushed to ArcGIS web apps, those capabilities and the results can be pushed to those web apps are things we can do now, but while there may be a hold up as far as ArcGIS Online, I think Mike knows.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting the context now. So my vision for those tracing tools is that will be in a web environment, right? So we showed them in desktop right now, but the web environment can support those in a portal or an ArcGIS Online environment. The mobility tools are not there yet. Again, there's progress being made on the Esri side, the product development side, but it's the traces is something that we can actually start doing right now. So that's our vision for migrating that analytics to the web.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are just about out of time. So just a reminder, we will send out all of the Q&A to the attendees. If you have any follow-up, please let us know. But we will send it out as well as a link to the video of the webinar. So look for that in your inbox over the next few days. Thank you all so much again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and we really look forward to working with some of the fantastic CFTA community on your campus mapping journey. Again, thank you very much, and everyone have a great day.
Great, thank you.